Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Travel with Terri podcast, featuring Terri Guthrie, a Dallas, Texas-based travel journalist who loves to talk about luxury family vacations, regional food and culture, national parks, historic attractions, and so much more. So we are back with part 2 of Terri's San Antonio Hill Country adventures with her family. We're talking about a multi-generational experience. Last week, we talked about the JW Marriott in the San Antonio Hill Country. See the link in the episode notes. The article's up on blendradioandtv.com, so you can learn about this was their hub, and then they went to these amazing experiences that we're going to talk about today, all about nature, the outdoors, and wildlife, and again, very connected to that hotel, and there's an article about that, these experiences on nationalparktraveling.com, so check the link in the episode notes for that, too. So, Terri, welcome back. How are you doing?
Lisa, I'm doing great. Yes, I'm doing wonderful. Just I'm ready for summer to be over.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are. We're all like the extreme temperatures, but I do not want an extreme winter. Give me the fall, but no extreme weather. Okay, no extremes.
I
That's what we want.
agree.
We want some nice calmness. But Texas Hill Country. Like I think what's so great about this, and I know we touched on this on the last week's episode with the JW Marriott is. We forget San Antonio is connected to the hill country sometimes. We always think Austin, Fredericksburg, that area is hill country, but it does have that backyard that connects in, which is really cool to experience, and that's what you did. And so in this episode, we're going to be talking about your adventures at Natural Bridge Caverns, Natural Bridge Wildlife Ranch, and then we're going to talk about the Bracken Bat Cave. And, I know Texas is especially the hill country area, and Austin even has a bat festival, that bats are a big deal out in this area. And I've done bat expert interviews about it too, which I just get excited about it. And I think for kids, it's really cool because there's always that little weird fear that we get as kids, about bats. And then there's like, this is so cool. So I can't wait to hear about your adventures with the boys, your 3 grandkids playing with bats and animals and going into caverns. They must have had a ball.
My goodness, they had so much fun, and they had no idea what to expect, of course. And so our first stop was Natural Bridge Caverns, and this is just a fantastic place. I can't recommend it enough. And you actually have multiple tours that you can select from. And they're all just like an hour long. And really, compared to some caves that I've been to, I think these are pretty easy to walk through. But first of all, it has a 60-foot natural limestone bridge that's at the entrance of the cave. So that's where it actually got its name from. Just a fun side note, I just have to tell you this too. I think it's so cool. It was just discovered in 1960 by some college students. And so then they opened it up to the public in 1964, designated natural landmark. But when you walk into a cave, you're like walking into the center of the universe, into the center of Earth. And it just the sights and the smells and the whole aura, I guess you would say, of being deep into the earth like that is such a unique experience. Our boys they were just, wow, wow. You just cannot comprehend what it looks like unless you actually go and experience it for yourself. And I have to say that this is just one of several caverns in Texas. I don't know if you knew about that, but there's like 5 or 6. There's a Texas cave trail. I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, Sonora. Isn't there's the Sonora Cave as well?
Yeah, that's one of them. And, I don't have the names in front of me right now, but they're all in the hill country area. The Sonora Cave, I think, is the one that's a little bit further west, but the other 4 or 5 are right there in the hill country, and then the Sonoran Cave is a little bit further out. But yeah, that's just such a fun thing to do and a great thing to do with kids. There's so much to learn. And of course, you have these very well-educated guides, and we just learned so much. And I have to tell you, I think one of the craziest things about this cavern is that you're going to love this. It actually hosts concerts and events inside
Oh,
of the cave there because they have this one just massive room and they call it the ballroom, but it's, of course, completely natural and it's known as the deepest venue in Texas. So
wow.
that's a lot of fun. But, one of the highlights to me too, besides seeing the, stalactites and stalagmites and all the different formations, is that the part where they turn off the lights, and it's like you could have your hand right in front of your face and you're not gonna see it. It just doesn't get any blacker and darker than that, and, that was
Yeah.
just a lot of fun. So the boys love that, but there's a lot more to Natural Bridge Caverns, the whole property, than just the caves itself.
You know what? I think I'm just touching on the stalagmites, stalactites, and everything. When you're in school and you're learning geology and things, the books just don't do it as well as being able to actually experience this. They're going to understand it better than
Oh,
if they didn't get to experience it, I think.
oh, I know, and we're going to Branson in November for Thanksgiving, and,
Oh, yeah.
Missouri is known as the
Yeah.
Cave State, but
Just
I'm
drove through
hoping
there.
that we get to take the boys to some of the caverns there because they've got some great ones too. But what I loved about this that I haven't seen a setup quite like what Natural Bridge Caverns has is that the fun doesn't end, when you're underground. They have a lot of cool things above ground there. So, I mean, honestly, you could spend a day there. But the thing that
Oh,
our
wow.
boys love the best, well, that's hard to say. They just loved it all, honestly. But it's something called the Twisted Trails, and it's trails and rope courses, and it's like this towering 60-foot challenge that spirals upward just like a giant jungle gym, and you would definitely need to be, like, bold and adventurous, and our boys are, but, it has I was a little challenged, so I will have to tell you that. But it has 4 levels of ropes and balance beams and, 685 feet of zip trails.
Oh,
It's
my gosh.
thrilling, just thrilling, and it's a real test to your courage and your coordination for sure. Our 6-year-old and 7-year-old, they could not get enough. They just loved it and just climbing higher and higher and just laughing, and it was just so fun watching them, and then for the 4-year-old, they have something for the smaller kids, which I thought was so smart, and it's called not Little Tykes, but just Tykes Trail, and it's offered kinda like a scaled down version of the ropes course, but it's just the perfect size for, like, the brave little feet. They just
Oh,
he was just so thrilled, and, it was just perfect for him, but then, something else they had there that was really fun, it was kinda like a rock climbing thing, but
mm,
but it had 2 sides to it, and the center part was acrylic, I guess, you could just see through it, it was clear. So, the 6 and 7-year-old, who are very, very competitive, we got them suited up on either side, and of course, they have all this safety equipment on for everything you do there. They're very safety oriented and
mhm.
minded, and you go through a little class on what to expect and all the safety measures and everything. But, the boys got on either side of this thing that must have been, I would say, 2 stories tall, and they had a race. It was I know they were, pretending to be like on, the American Ninja show or something. It's kinda on that level, and so they're on either side of this, and then they have to climb up, just scale up the wall very quickly, and you get up to the top and you hit a bell. But anyway, they were just nip and tuck, as my mom would say, and just, I was like, "Oh gosh," because they're just so competitive, I can't tell you. I'm like, "This is gonna be hard for one to win and not the other." But what happened is that the 7-year-old, he got up there, but he didn't see the bell, so he hit something else, but right behind him was the 6-year-old who did see the bell and hit the bell, and then they
Oh,
come down
boy.
both at the same time, but it worked out perfect because we're like, "Well, one actually got there first, but the other one, well, you rang the bell, so y'all both win." So there you go.
Well, there it is. Yeah, you have to do something at that point. Yeah, so yeah, that's funny, man. But that's the whole thing about these kinds of things. So it's an above ground and underground kind of adventure. But now, talking about caves, I want to go to the Bracken Bat Cave and then we'll get to the Natural Bridge Wildlife Ranch because just speaking on caves and caverns. So this was at the end of day that you went around dusk, right? So at this point, hoping to see bats, right?
Yes. Well, let me tell you, first of all, not many people know about this place. And I saw it on a documentary years ago, and I was in San Antonio 2 years ago in December, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go to the Bracken Cave, I'm going to Bracken Cave." Well, guess what? The bats aren't there in December. I was so disappointed. And so
Oh,
they're only there from spring until fall. So about March through October is typically when they come, but, there's a lot to tell you about this. So, basically, it's probably the most awe-inspiring and natural spectacular event. It is a spectacle, I'll say that for sure. It is just primal and poetic. It makes you emotional to see this, and
hmm.
I am so thankful that it worked out that we got to see it, and especially got to see it with our grandsons because I've just never witnessed anything like it. So we had a guide, like expert guide. Really, it's a volunteer-based organization pretty much, and they're with the Bat Conservation International, and there's just a small group. They only take about 25 every evening. Not very
Oh,
many. They just don't
the
want
reservations then.
only have to reserve a spot. And yeah, they gave us like a quick education, kind of like a backstory on the ecology and the conservation, and then what all is going on there. With the Bat Cave. So basically, they migrate from Mexico each spring to Bracken Cave. And, you just wonder, how do they find it every year? But it's all mothers and they're all pregnant when they get there. So that's how that goes, and so there's no males there at all. I thought that was so interesting,
Wow.
and so they just formed this dense maternity colony where they give birth and they raise their pups there, and they said it's just like the perfect little incubator. It's just the perfect bat nursery. All the conditions are just perfect for raising their baby pups, so that's why they come back year after year, and there are millions, as in 20 million of these bats.
Wow.
It's just
Wow.
incredible, and when they spiral out of that cave, it is the most breathtaking vortex. It's just like a darkening of the sky as they're heading out to hunt for crop damaging insects. And get this, Lisa, they consume over 100 tons nightly. And,
Wow.
it's just incredible. The cave itself sits at the bottom of this collapsed sinkhole, and it just has this 100-foot wide crescent-shaped opening, and to see them come out, they kinda come out without warning. They're coming out at dusk, but you don't know like, exactly what time, and when the bats begin to rise, the millions and the millions of them spiraling upward in this black vortex, it just makes the sky, like, go into motion. And I did not expect this. And I loved this. The sound was like a rushing wind. It's very soft and rhythmic. And then, it was kind of warm. And then with the force of their wings, it makes a breeze I mean, a real breeze that was like rustling the trees. And it felt so fantastic. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful sight. It brought tears to my eyes. I was overwhelmed, and especially getting to sit there with my grandsons and
Mm.
experience this. It was just amazing. When that vortex I'm telling you about, this is so funny. That's what they have called it and have named it, and they call it a batnado because it looks like a tornado, but it's like a tornado,
Of bats.
and it
That's
just
so
looks like
cool.
this living, like, ribbon that flows out, and it's majestic, absolutely majestic, and I don't think there's anywhere else in the world that you can see something like this. It's, something very, very special that I will never forget.
That's awesome. And bats are crucial in, our, crops and everything. I mean, they're just such an important species. And so this is run by the Nature Conservancy and Bat Conservation International, y'all. So that's really good stuff that they're doing. So the Natural Bridge Wildlife Ranch. So you got to play with giraffes.
Yes, yes. They have just a wonderful place here. Well, I think it's 600, no, it's 500 acres, 500 acres and about a 6 mile long safari you can go through. But we got to do this giraffe experience. And this was also so special. I have to tell you, giraffes are the sweetest, most gentle creatures, and they are just loving. And they had us pretty much a little salad kit ready so that we could feed them, and we weren't really sure about it at first, and there were several babies, and I remember the little 4-year-old, he was so cute. I said, "Go on up there, feed him," and he started to feed him, and then he turned around and he goes, "I don't know, Pippa, it's kinda scary."
Aw.
And Ron and I were like, "Look, a baby's feeding a baby," even though that baby was, is just so enormous, but
Yeah.
then he got over it, that was just his first initial thing, but that like, giraffe's tongue, is so
And
long.
then you can't well, you don't know. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
an unknown.
And
Yeah.
he didn't know he was scary. Their tongues would almost, like, wrap around your hand as they're trying to get all the carrots and the, lettuce and stuff that we were feeding them, but that was so much fun. They were really, really sweet, very docile, very well cared for, and that is certainly an experience we will never forget, but it wasn't nearly as funny as the birds.
Okay, what's going on with the bird? You went from bats to birds, birds to bats. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, these birds, I wouldn't have even typically have, gone into something like this, but the boys wanted to. But, it's just like this really large atrium type of thing.
Mm.
I didn't know. I think they call it aviary, but
Avery. It's an Avery, yeah.
yeah, but their joy just turned into it was electrifying. I will have to say, I don't know that I've ever done anything that I laugh so hard at, and I still laugh about it because when you go into this place, they give you as a popsicle stick with bird seed on it. And then there they have like about 450 little colorful birds. I was really shocked they had that many because this room is so enormous and the birds are, they're up high and they're all over the place. It's kind of hard to get a count, but there were a lot. But they are looking for those popsicle sticks with the seeds on them. And then I this is what we think. They like your sweat or something like that because they would like to land on your head and they kinda like would be like licking or pecking or something like at your neck and your ears, and then they would, get on your head and do the same, but it didn't hurt, but it tickled. And that's why I'm telling you, we laughed so much. And then it seemed like if one bird would fly there and land on you, then another would, and another would, and I know that our 7-year-old, it was hilarious. He, like, had a whole family on him at once. I mean, like, I'm talking, like,
That's
10 little birds, and it was just hearing him giggle and laugh was just I don't know, it just felt
they
so
had a bit of a nature
special.
connection there going on. Yeah.
Yes, it was just so sweet, and then they're looking at me and just cracking up laughing, and then, I was like, What are you laughing at?" And they're like, "Pippa, look on your hat." And on top of my cowboy hat, I had, a couple of little birds perched up there, which I didn't even know they were like little ornaments on my hat.
Oh my gosh. They
We
must be
laughed
like
and we
little
laughed,
finches,
and, they were so cute. Yeah, the finches were one of them. They actually had all different types, but they were all
songbirds,
small,
and
and then
yeah.
they actually on the ground, they had some chickens and ducks and stuff like that, but we still laugh about it, and I have some of the best videos ever that I will always treasure, but that was certainly a lot of fun. The whole trip was just magnificent. I love how it was very nature focused, and,
Mm.
we were not really doing any of the typical things that you might do on vacation somewhere unless you were camping. But this was something that you just really get to go outside and enjoy our beautiful state, our beautiful country, and all the wonderful offerings that it has, that we need to be getting out and enjoying because there's just so much. And to get to experience these things, and especially these um, things that the boys did for our first time was
Mm.
we're making memories that, will live a lifetime for all of us.
Yeah, and I mean, with a bird on your head, or 2 or 3, come on. That's funny. That is funny.
I
Yes.
think I'm gonna have to print out those pictures and just do a whole photo collage because 'cause they're just all hilarious. I don't know
Funny.
what was so funny about that, and in fact, Ron even he was taking a picture of me at first, and he was like, "Terry, quit laughing. What are you laughing so much about?" I can't help it. I just can't help it. I mean, it was like somebody was tickling me, and then later on, then they decide to land on him, and I mean, he could not stop giggling. He
Yeah,
got it, but it
payback.
just yes, I know. It was just so much fun, and just,
That's funny.
laughter is good for the soul, and we had a
Yeah.
lot of it, and just had a most memorable vacation there in San Antonio, in the San Antonio Hill Country.
Love it. I love it. Everyone, again, check out the episode notes for Terri's articles, also for the J.W. Marriott in the Hill Country of Texas, San Antonio Hill Country, and this one covering the Bat Cave, the caverns, the wildlife ranch, and all the links. So if you want to plan your vacation, all the links are in there and some photos too. So you can have a good giggle as well. But we're going to be off to another destination next week. Stay tuned. Thanks so much for joining us. We're here every Tuesday. Thanks, Terri.
Thank you, Lisa. Talk to you next time.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Travel with Terri podcast. You can follow Terri's adventures at travelwithterri.net, and that's Terri with an I, not a Y. Follow us here at bigblendradio.com. Happy travels!